Hello writers, come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is Friday, which is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then please send your chapter with written permission to writewithmichaela@gmail.com. Excuse me. I will post the email address at the end of the video and in the description below. I'm looking forward to reading your chapters. All chapters read on Fridays, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. This story is PG-13, so if you are under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. This story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last two stories we heard. The title of this story is Elloni's Pride, and today we are reading chapter 16 out of book 1. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier and request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific. Now let's start. Elloni's Pride, Book 1, Breaking Point. This is Chapter 16, Profit Loss. King Damantade was furious with his soldiers. He couldn't believe they hadn't found people in King Fateright's kingdom. So he flew out with them. They touched down in the courtyard of King Fateright's kingdom, and King Damantade saw all the destruction. Still, he had his soldiers spread out and search. After over an hour, the only people they found were their own dead soldiers, which only infuriated King Damantade even more. He demanded to know how his soldiers died when no one was in the kingdom, and he had them search again. He had them bring things out of the structures, pile them in the center center of the courtyard, and burn them because he didn't want the people to be able to hide behind anything. Soon the fire was blazing high, and there was still no sign of King Fateright's people. Does he have a village? Where is this food grown? Asked King Damantade. We will destroy it all. A few soldiers knew they had trampled the Underwood village garden that they received food from with their taxation, but they didn't say a word. They did wonder where they would get food from and knew they would tuck some food in their armor before they burned it. One soldier reported, I saw some fields of grain when we chased Brosser north. I don't know where their village is. Burn the food, ordered King Damantade. Several soldiers mounted their dragons and flew north. Soon King Damantade could see fire raining from the sky from his soldiers' dragons, breathing fire onto the fields. He made a mental note to review his map so his soldiers could visit the village. King Damantade summoned his prophet, Kaishon. Explain things to me. How? Why would Browser and his dragons try to douse fires when there are no people here? Where are the people? We just received taxes from them a week or so ago. They couldn't just disappear. I think Browser, started Kaishon. He nervously glanced at the king and around at the remaining soldiers. I think Browser must have come here to find Linkers. Perhaps a few Linkers slipped into our kingdom and rescued him, and then they headed here. Yes, you've stated that. You didn't think Browser escaped on his own, stated King Damantade. He waved his hand dismissively. That would mean that the Linkers snuck past my soldiers to go in, and again to go out. I think Brosser had more magic, than we knew or guessed. I think Brosser was in contact with the other linkers, and once his arm signaled us, we should have killed him. He was just biding his time in our dungeon. I think you just didn't want us to kill him. Before the prophet could protest, King Damantade made a signal, and a soldier swung his ready sword and sliced off the prophet's head. All they heard was, "I," as the prophet had raised a finger. Then his head dropped off, and his body fell to the ground. "From now on, I'm going with my gut," stated King Damantade. He must have worked with Browser. Although the soldiers couldn't see or detect the other soldiers glance around at each other in their armor, they all glanced around, and they all knew that any one of them could lose their head at any moment. In another hour, King Damantade's soldiers flew back to their kingdom. The half-moon provided little light, but it was enough. King Damantade planned to send out soldiers tomorrow to search for King Faterite's village, if he had one, and burn it to the ground. He didn't think about the food he usually received as taxes, because he was calculating a hefty tax for King Faterite's disloyalty. Browser walked into a limb, and another branch scraped his face once again. Browser sighed as he stopped. "I want to find Bradley." "Well, don't you know a charm for light? Or do you need to rest? We've had a long day." Browser glanced over his shoulder at Dronsnide, who was a few paces behind him. "I guess we should think, for starters. We rested in prison, but I just want to be free." "We're free," thought Dronsnide. "Not yet," thought Browser. "We're not free until King Damantade no longer rules anything, and King Faterite's people have their kingdom back." He thought of the destruction they had witnessed and added, "or a kingdom to live in. Living and hiding is not free. It's not prison, but it's not free." "Okay, I see your point," thought Dronsnide. "So now what?" "I use my head more often. I was quite depressed in prison, and that didn't help us. Of course, I had help to escape, and I can't forget that help. I say I study more, I remember more, I practice more, I use a charm for light, and we walk more, a little more. Then we rest up and start the new day tomorrow fresh. We find Bradley and his linkers and their dragons and whoever else we need to find. And then we work on training. King Faterite wanted to train to read even. So we will do every lesson, no matter how long it takes. And then we will remove King Damantade from his throne. The people will be free and not live in fear." "Sounds like you're forming a plan in your mind," thought Dronsnide. "And I like it. I also like the vibrancy that has come back to you." Browser cast a charm on his fist and held his fist up in the air. He noticed right away that if he hadn't stopped walking, then he would have tripped on a large log that was on the ground across his current path. He thought how lucky he was to have stopped. Then he and Dronsnide made their way around the log and continued their paths south. Hushman's group had stopped walking when it got too dark, and when the little ones were getting scared. As they sat around their small camp, the adults and older children thought through things, and the little children nestled down on the ground under the bark. It was too dark to play with the pine-cone-made ball, and they were very tired. Then Kala said, "We cast charms on each other, and Hushman, Mr. Simtar." "Hushman is fine," from the older children in the very least. They are acting as adults. "And we need to think differently than before. We're not in the village. We need to do things differently, and therefore we need to think differently." Sylvie nodded her consent, so Kala continued. Hoshman wanted to check on the village. I know he asked Bradley, but Bradley helped the other kingdom, and he has the linkers. I'm going to check on Ma Trouter. Sylvie held up her hand. I agree with Hoshman. If thoughts have power, and we've seen them, she motioned around. I see dust floating around. And I saw golden dust when we were sending magic. So we are changing our thinking. Ma Trouter is Kimley to you now. Kala nodded her head. This will be hard. I've never known her as Kimley. But I will check on her and see how she is. She can sing to me about her mother and her two small children, in the very least. Maybe it isn't the whole village, but Bradley can't do everything. I agree, stated Kosher. I will check on Trenton. He's about my age. Hoshman held up his hands, and the rest saw him, although the light was minimal. I'm not trying to change thinking here, and I'm proud of you two for thinking to take on task. But while you're thinking to these people, they may be resistant and may not believe. I mean, it was hard for me to believe it was Bradley when he first thought to me. So I guess what I'm saying is don't work on convincing them that you are who you are, or that you've cast a charm. Just check on them and give them words of hope, encouragement, charms, whatever, and they will grow to accept your thoughts. At least that is my hope. Yes, I understand. When you first thought to me, said Kosher as he motioned to Hoshman, I didn't believe. I just heard it in my head. And then you wanted me to think to you, so I clamped my lips tight and thought. I understand that it will be much harder for these people. Another thing, started Hoshman. I really don't know what's going on around me when I think with Bradley. And he mentioned something about that too. So we may want to take turns or signal each other some way. Well, it was my idea, so I'll go first, stated Kala. And she said the words to the charm and inserted the name of Kimley Trouter. Then she thought to Kimley. Ma Trouter, Kimley, this is Kala. I'm Jarson's daughter. I want to know how you're doing. How's your mother and your little ones? Okay, hold on, thought Ma Trouter as she glanced around the cellar. Hector done told us how this works, but I'm no use to it. He said not to talk. Wait a minute. You're not down here with us. Why are you knowing your pa's cellar? Kala started to answer. Oh, I know. You're being sneaky and staying in a different one. That will confuse those soldiers. Kimley, please tell me how you are. Are you still in the village? Hector's done told you that we be in Jarson's cellar, and we have plenty of stores, which you should know, since it was your cellar. Why didn't you try to leave? My ma can no walk well, and I have two little ones. The little ones can walk, thought Kala. Kala looked around the camp in the dim light. Kimley doesn't believe she can leave the village with her ma and her two little ones. What should I tell her? The harsh truth, said Hoshman, as he shook his head to himself. But when he didn't say any more, Kala looked at her mother. Sylvie sighed and said, Dear, tell her the mother will have more stores to herself if they leave her. But if they stay, they will probably all die. Started Kala. Then she looked at Hoshman and realized that being an adult was hard. Then she received, I listened ball many times. I know I'm supposed to find you, but I don't know where to look. Where are you? Kala looked around. She shook her head to herself and thought to the voice in her head. I'm in the woods somewhere. We headed south out of my village, but after we crossed the river, we headed southwest. Who are you? I, your dragon. You link with me. Oh, thought Kala. Do I need to find you? I don't know. I think we find each other, but the ball no say anything about dark. I no see anything. But information within me play like ball, and light's supposed to come. I no know when. In the morning, thought Kala. When the sun rises, we have light, and we call that morning. Where are you? I stay put. I no leave my birthplace yet. Kala sighed. My dragon is still in his birthplace, but that doesn't help me know where he or she is. I think my dragon is a he, but I don't know why I think that. You are linked, stated Thilda. That's awesome. Advise your dragon not to move in the dark and let him or her know that you're not moving either. I thought you were thinking with, started Kosher. I was, and I need to go back to those thoughts, stated Kala. She looked at Thilda. I will finish the thoughts with my... She suddenly got excited and exclaimed, with my dragon! I will finish the thoughts with my dragon and then go back to Kimley. Kala remained excited while she thought to her dragon. Not many people or animals move in the dark, so I'm staying put too. I believe you cast the charm to link with me, but we'll talk of that later. Rest now, and when it's light out, you can give me more descriptions of your surroundings, and we'll find each other. Right now, I'm linking with a woman from my village, and I need to return to those thoughts. You don't want me to link? Well, I didn't think that. I don't know how all this works. The adults are just now sharing some things. Not to their fault, but because of the king we're under. I stay link. I don't want to lose you. That sounds fine. Do you have a name? What's a name? Kala thought for a moment. It's what people call you. The ball call me Straptor. Would that be my name? I think so. It's very nice to meet you, Straptor. I'm very happy to have a dragon. My name is Kala. We will find each other. I must be losing my mind, thought Ma Trotter. I was hearing voices, and then... You're not losing your mind, thought Kala. Something came up, and I had to focus my thoughts on that. Now to you, I'm going to think, that there are limits to stores. They sometimes would not last our family through the winter. If you want them to last for your mother, then fewer people need to eat on them. So you need to take your little ones and leave. Let your mother have the stores. I can no do that. What would I eat? Me ma can no walk down to the stores and get anything by herself. There's food in the woods. We've eaten every day, and every day we are farther away from the dogs. Did you see them eat my paw? Sylvie grabbed Kala's shoulders. You have to let that go. You can't keep thinking on that. Kala felt startled as she looked at her mother. I'm trying to get her to understand. Sylvie released her grip and shook her head. That's not the way. She motioned around the group. We all saw the pictures you were projecting. Thankfully, the little ones are asleep, because they don't need to see that again. I certainly don't want to see it again and again. Sylvie, started Hirschman. The young woman, has those memories, and we don't want to suppress them. She needs to deal with them. I'm sure I have a few visions of that night that shouldn't be in my head either. He shook his head a little. Then his whole body shuddered, and the tears started to flow. Jarson was a good man. Sylvie went back to her place in the camp, and though no one could see everyone else's face, tears were streaming down all the adults' and older children's faces. There was no more conversation, and Kosher decided to cast the charm on Triton in the morning instead of now. Elloni touched down with Baldian right behind her, and then Libya dismounted. Libya spread her arms as wide as she could, and she hugged Elloni's neck. That was much better than before. Elloni bent her neck and leaned her head down to puff a breath in Libya's hair. I'm glad, she thought. I've been getting images in my head of how to fly against the enemy, and we will need to practice them. Once you complete all the physical training that the tailors have for you, I specifically have an image of flying and flipping upside down to attack the underside of enemy dragons. Libya backed up and looked at Elloni. Upside down? Won't I fall off? I think that's where some magic comes in, or in the tailor's terms, charms. I don't think I've read anything like that yet, stated Libya. Well, let's rest, thought Elloni. We want to get to your sister on time. Libya nodded her head and then reached in her pocket to get Keechin out. How are you doing? The flight wasn't as bad as I imagined it to be, thought Keechin. It was actually quite lulling, and I think I slept most of it. Well, I'm about to sleep now, stated Libya. Release your charm, and I'll explore around here a bit. Maybe I can find some food, thought Keechin. Lydia did, and Keechin scampered off. Then not Lydia, and it's typed correctly. Libya did, and Keechin scampered off. Then Libya released the charm she had on her bundle after she pulled that out of her other pocket. She found the 2 berries that Bitsy gave her, and she ate one. Then she spread out her spare pieces of leather to lay on. Donter had promised to stitch them together for her to make a proper pallet, but Felicity said he could do it when she returned to the tailor's. And Libya didn't mind the grass poking up between the pieces of leather. Libya lay down, and Elloni and Baldian curled up near her, and they all went to sleep. The tailors didn't detach themselves. They just stayed on the dragons. Okay, writers, that is the end of chapter 16. We have 20 chapters in this book, and then we'll start book 2. The subtitle of book 2 is Regrouping. I will pull out a plot for that one. If you want all 3 books to be just one book for you, then you can add the second and the third plots to the first one so that you have a complete story. It's up to you. You're the writer. Now, leave a comment below on if you were King Damontade's soldiers and what you would think when he ordered the soldier to chop off Kayshawn's head. What would you think when King Damantade ordered the burning of crops? Would you follow the orders? Burn the crops? Would you maybe rain some fire down? He's so far away he can't see the field. So maybe you could just rain the fire down somewhere beside the field or in front of the field and not on the field, and to kind of hope the fire kind of goes out and doesn't build to the field. So what would you do? And what would you think if you were one of those soldiers? Also, leave a comment on how you would feel flying on Elloni with a saddle. Would you enjoy that? At least I think it would be better than no saddle. Still, flying maneuvers and flying upside down would remain very scary for me anyway. Join me Tuesday for part 3 of A Down Soldier and maybe a little jargon. And see, I have not written that part yet. I will write it when we are together, and I will write it for the channel. Well, when I write the script for the channel, I will write it then. So it's not written yet. And then we'll see if we can throw in a little bit of jargon and everything, so we have a more rounded Tuesday. Join me Friday for chapter 17 of Elloni's Pride, book 1, Breaking Point. Visit my website, bymckella.com, and read some character bios. If you read some, then leave a comment on which ones you've read. I hope to start adding more bios to the website as well. Also, my web designer was texting me the other day. He's like, what happened to you? Why aren't you giving me bios? I'm ready to upload them. So, I'm a little bit behind. But I'm appreciative that she keeps asking me for these things, so that keeps me going. So, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe and hit the bell so we can continue to write together. and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. I appreciate our community that we're building here together. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them, and let them know that this material is out there to help them write, and you to write. And y'all can have your own chapter exchange. If you're not sending chapters to me, which I would really love, you can still get your friends together and y'all can exchange chapters among yourselves and stuff like that. Just leave those comments so we know what's going on. So share the video. This is McCullough with the Write with McCullough. Bye for now.